This is Mrs. Wainwright's math class, chapters 6, 7, 8, Pkt F, lesson 5, divide mixed numbers. Today's learning target: by the end of the lesson, you should confidently be able to say, I can divide mixed numbers and find a fully simplified quotient. Let's look at the note for today's lesson. When we multiply or divide mixed numbers, the first step is to change the mixed number into an improper fraction. So let's take a look at example number 1. I have 3 1/2 divided by 3 3/5. I see that this is a division problem with mixed numbers, and I know my note told me first I have to change the mixed number into an improper fraction, so I will go ahead and do that first. Don't tell them to blow up on Olivant. To her next event, time may change me. You can twist time. So I have 7/2 divided by 18/5. Well, I know when I see a problem that's division of fractions, I think about going fishing. I go fishing and I catch my fish. I will draw my fish, and I am going to keep the main part to change it into my dinner, and I will flip the rest of it back into the ocean because, who wants to eat that tail? So let's go ahead and follow the keep, change, flip. Keep my first fraction, 7/2, change my division to multiplication, flip 18 over 5 to 5 over 18. I now have this nice multiplication problem, 7/2 times 5/18. I will write that on the next page and go ahead to solve it. 7/2 times 5/18 is a multiplication of fractions problems. We know when we multiply fractions we use our x11 strategy. So I'm going to go ahead to the first portion of that strategy, the orange portion, which is my 7 and my 18. So I will find the GCF of both 7 and 18. Factors of 7 are 1 and 7. 2 doesn't work, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, 7 is it. 1 and 7, I'm done. Factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, I'm done. I don't see a 7 as a factor of 18, I do see a 1. When my GCF is 1, my fraction is done, so my 7 and my 18, or my orange portion of my x, is finished. Now I'm going to move to the green portion of my x, which is my 5 and my 2. I'll find the GCF of both 5 and 2. So my factors of 5 are 1 and 5, that's it. My factors of 2 are 1 and 2, that's it. There's no 5. GCF was 1. Again, my 5 and my 2 are done. So now I'm going to move on to the brown portion of my 11, which is this side right over here. I have my 7 and my 2, so I will look over my chart. Hey, these are the factors of 7, these are the factors of 2. I can just reuse those. I don't see a 7. I do see a 1. When the GCF is 1, my fraction is done, so 7 and 2 are fully reduced. I move on to the purple portion of my 11, which are my 5 and 18. And again, over here, I'm going to see that I have 18 and 5 already. I don't see a 5 up there. I do see a 1. The GCF is 1. So again, that portion is done. So I'm ready to go ahead and multiply since there was no reducing or cross-canceling to be done. And I know when I multiply, I'm going to say numerator times numerator. So 7 times 5 equals 35. Then I'm going to say denominator times denominator. 2 times 18 equals, I don't really know it by heart, so I'll use scrap. 18 times 2. 8 times 2 is 16. 6 carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have the fraction 35/36. And I see that 35/36 is a proper fraction. It will work in a chicken fight. That's my final answer. I'll go back and write it on my line of the original problem. 3 1/2 divided by 3 3/5 equals 35/36. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 1 right now. Let's take a look at example number 2. Karen has 5 2/5 pounds of almonds. She plans to put 3 3/4 pounds in each bowl. How many bowls will Karen fill? Well, let's focus on our question. The question wants to know, how many bowls will Karen fill? What do I know? I know that Karen has 5 2/5 pounds of almonds. Picture that. She has a big bag of almonds and it says 5 2/5 pounds. She plans to put 3 3/4 pounds into each bowl. So I picture she has some bowls out on her table and she's going to put 3 3/4 pounds into each bowl. Interesting, I see the word each. And I know in a math problem when I have each, it's either going to be a multiplication or a division problem. How do I know which it is? Well, if it's a multiplication problem, I'm adding the same number over and over again. If it's a division problem, they give me a total, and I'm dividing it into smaller equal groups. Let's see what I have here. I have the total amount of almonds that Karen has, and the 3 3/4 pounds is the smaller groups that she'll be separating it into. So that tells me that this will be a division problem. So we'll do my total, which is 5 2/5, divided by 3 3/4, which is my smaller groups. Let's move to the next page to solve the problem. I see that I'm dividing mixed numbers. My first step is to change them to improper fractions. So I'm going to do my arrow for change. I learned how to add before I learned how to multiply, and now I'll simply follow the arrow. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 plus 2 is 27. So I've turned 5 2/5 into 27/5 because my denominator stays the same. Bring down my division sign and let's hit this next fraction. Do my change. I learned how to add before I learned how to multiply, and let's follow my arrow. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. That's my numerator. My denominator of 4 stays the same. So I have the problem 27/5 divided by 15/4. And I know when I have a division problem, I'm going to think about fishing. So I'm going to draw my fish since I'm going fishing. And I know I'm going to catch something. I am going to keep the main part to change into my dinner, and I'm going to flip that gross tail that nobody wants to eat back into the ocean. So let's go ahead and solve that with my fractions right now. Keep my first fraction, 27/5, change my division to multiplication, and flip 15/4 into 4/15. I now have a multiplication of fractions problem, 27/5 times 4/15. I'll rewrite that on the next page so I have plenty of room to solve it. So I know when I'm multiplying fractions, I'm going to follow my X11 strategy. My X11 strategy, I'm going to go ahead with my orange portion of the X first, which is 27 and 15. I will find the GCF of both 27 and 15. Factors of 27 are 1 and 27. 2 doesn't work. 3 does work. 3 times 9 is 27. 4 doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. 6, 7, 8, 9. I already have. I'm done. Factors of 15 are 1 and 15. 2 doesn't work, but 3 does. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 doesn't work. I already have the 5. I'm done. I don't see a 27. I don't see a 9, but I do see a 3, so I need to divide both of these numbers by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So I changed those out. I am ready to move on to the green portion of my X. Green portion of my X are the 4 and the 5. Those numbers are in counting order. When I'm in counting order, I'm done. Okay, so I'm ready to move on to the brown portion of my 11. So for here I have 9 and 5. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I am going to do 9 and 5. Factors of 9 are 1 and 9, 3 and 3, so I'm done. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and that's it. There's no 9, there's no 3, there is a 1, but when there's a 1, my fraction is done, so 9 and 5 are finished. I need to go ahead and look at the purple portion of my 11. And there I see 4 and 5. That's in counting order, so that's done. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction here, make it nice and neat. I have 9/5 times 4/5, and I'm ready to go ahead and solve this problem. So now I know when I multiply fractions, I do numerator times numerator. So it's going to be 9 times 4 equals 36. Denominator times denominator, 5 times 5 equals 25. Now we need to take a look at this and see, will this fraction work in a chicken fight? Is it a proper fraction? And no, 36/25 is not a proper fraction that will not work in a chicken fight. So I know that's going to go, boom, drop it down into the division box. 25 cannot go into 3, but it does go into 36. 25 times 1 is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. That wouldn't work, so it has to be 1 time. Times 25 is 25. And subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 11 is less than 25. There's nothing to bring down, so I'll write my remainder as a fraction. My remainder becomes my numerator. My divisor of 25 becomes my denominator. I have 1 and 11/25, and I'm going to go ahead and put that back into my original problem. This is a word problem, so I need to go back and put my sentence into an answer using the correct unit. The question says, how many bowls will Karen fill? So Karen will fill 1 and 11/25 bowls, and that's my final answer. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 2 right now. And finally, we have example 3, 2 and 3/6 divided by 4 and 2/4. Again, I see mixed numbers. I first need to change that to improper fractions. So I'm going to do my C for changes. Learned how to add before I learned how to multiply. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So this is going to turn into 15/6. Bring down my division sign. Add and multiply. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. Denominator stays the same, so that is 18/4. So now I have this division problem, 15/6 divided by 18/4. I know when I have a division of fractions problem, I'm going to go fishing, so I draw my fish, keep the main part to change into my dinner, and flip that nasty tail into the water. Keep, change, flip. So let's go ahead and do that for my fractions. Keep my first fraction, which is 15/6, change my division to multiplication, flip my 18/4 to 4/18. So I have this nice multiplication of fraction problems now, 15/6 times 4/18. I'll rewrite that on the next page so I have plenty of room to solve it. So I know when I'm multiplying fractions, again, I follow my X11 strategy. I'm going to do the orange part of my X first, which is my 15 and my 18. We have to find the GCF of those numbers. So the factors of 15 are 1 and 15. 2 doesn't work, 3 does, 3 times 5, 4 doesn't work, I'm done. The factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, I'm done. I don't see a 15, I don't see a 5, but I do see a 3, so I will need to divide both of these by 3. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I'm done with the orange portion of my X. I need to move on to the green portion of my X, which are my 4 and my 6. And I will need to go ahead and find the GCF of both 4 and 6. So the factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 times 2, so I'm done. The factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 times 3, 4 doesn't work, I'm done. I don't see a 4, but I do see a 2, so I need to divide both of these by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I've finished the green portion of my X11 strategy. Okay, so I'm up to the brown portion of my X11 strategy, and I have my 5 and my 3. So my factors of 5 and 3. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5, that's it. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3, that's it. There isn't a 5, but there is a 1. My GCF is 1, so that fraction is done. And I will move on to the purple portion of the X11 strategy, and I have the numbers 2 and 6. So I'm going to have to find my factors of 2, and guess what? My factors of 6 are right up here. So the factors of 2 are 1 and 2, that's it. Do I see a 2 up here? Yes, I do. So I'm going to have to divide both of those numbers by 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. I'll put it over here. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I'll put it right down over there. So let's rewrite my new fractions so they're nice and neat and easy to read. I have 5/3 times 1/3, and I'm ready to solve. So of course I do numerator times numerator, and 5 times 1 equals 5. and then I do denominator times denominator, and 3 times 3 equals 9. So I have 5/9, and I need to look at that 5/9 and say, is that a proper fraction? Will that work in a chicken fight? And the answer to that question is yes, it will. So I'm going to go back and write that final answer on my original problem. 5/9. So 2 and 3/6 divided by 4 and 2/4 equals 5/9. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 3 right now. Let's review. When we multiply or divide mixed numbers, the first step is to change the mixed number to an improper fraction. Once we do that, we have a division problem, fraction divided by fraction, and we know that means we're going fishing. We draw our fish, label the body keep, since we'll be changing that into our dinner. So we put the X on the tail for change and the F on the tail because we're going to flip that tail and get rid of it. We don't want to eat the tail. So we keep our first fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip our second fraction. Once we've turned it to a multiplication problem, we use our X11 strategy for multiplying fractions, and we use the GCF to fully cross-cancel and simplify. When all that is done with X11, you rewrite your new fractions, and now you're ready to multiply. And remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. Then we need to check to make sure that that is a proper fraction. If it is, great, but if it isn't, like this one isn't, it does not work in a chicken fight, then it needs to drop down into that division box pool, and we go ahead and divide. Write any remainder as a fraction, and that gives us our final answer. Hopefully by now you can confidently say, I can divide mixed numbers and find a fully simplified quotient. We'll do more practice in class. If you have any questions or need help, please see a teacher. We will sit and work with you. Good luck with the lesson.